Hello and welcome. Well, I've just been to the hospital here in France and it got me thinking. Because my daughter in the UK is struggling to get a dentist. Then I read stories about, well, teenagers who haven't had their teeth checked at all. Surprising they got any left, to be honest. Now I read that the doctors, the GPs, have decided to vote against the government contract, which basically came out the 1st of April this year. So they've said no to the 1.9% increase in the contracts. It's just not enough, you see. Inflation's higher than that, isn't it? So effectively they're taking a pay cut again, just like the junior doctors. Right. Living here in France, what have you, they do have their problems. You know, there are issues. The locals, what have you, or the French nationals, they do say things have got worse regarding the health service in France. You've got to wait longer for your appointments and stuff like that, you know. I haven't noticed it myself, you know, but I've only been here since 2009. But I've just been to the hospital today and I had... Let me show you. I'm plumbed up, I am, here. I'm plumbed up with this, alright? Because I've been struggling last 3 months, I'd say. And I had suspected heart problems, and I've had another Holter fitted before, which is, you know, does all your heart rates and stuff. And then this thing, which is for my blood pressure. And my blood pressure's high. It's calmed down a bit, actually. I've kind of come to the realisation I need to calm myself down. Got to chill, you know. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying not to be so uptight about stuff that's going on around the world, because it does frustrate me. It really does. I find it hard sometimes to comprehend the horrific nature of some people. You know, with all the wars going on around the world, maybe you can't bottle all that stuff up. You can't layer it on top of each other, on top of each other, on top of each other, and expect to be able to deal with it. And I think that's kind of what was happening with me, whether it be the Brexit situation, politics in general in the UK, the madness of it all, and, you know, the fact I don't feel that Labour's necessarily the answer, but the only practical party to actually vote for is... I can't see what they can do. So that's got weighs on my mind. And now we've got CTs on motorbikes here in France, basically the MOT, which we should have had anyway. But you know, that's another little pressure, you know, because I've got a motorbike. But that doesn't really bore me, to be fair. But it's I just can't imagine what it's like for people having to wait, British citizens having to wait. And these flipping waiting lists that seem to go on for months, if not years. Now, I had the appointment for this 2 weeks ago, and I just literally been to the hospital, waited no more than, first booked in, 3 minutes, waited on the chair, one person went in, came out again, and then it was me. I wasn't in any more than 10 minutes. It's dealt with me within 5 minutes, got me fitted up, whatever, wired up, ready. And I've got to come back tomorrow, and I've just got to, you know, drop it off again tomorrow. Got to sleep with this flipping thing on. Yeah, it's basically a blood pressure monitor on my arm, automatic one. Says, because I can't imagine sleeping. No, that thing coming on every 5 minutes. It might come on a minute, actually. I think it's about every 5 minutes it's coming on. I've got to put my arm down low every time it decides to come into action. But go back to the NHS, because, you know, I am fortunate living here. End of the day, if we have any health issues, we get treated within good time. And like with any condition, that's what you need. You need to be treated quickly. Like cancers, having to go, I don't know, the operation or the potential procedures have to go to a board meeting once a month or so before they make a decision. It's very preventative here. Obviously, it must be the right thing to do. It makes more sense to me. We've got this. We've got thousands of NHS workers, doctors, nurses, etc., are planning to move abroad for better pay. And this is in an environment where we're struggling already to get nurses from abroad. Now, I've mentioned this before, so nurses, we get a lot of nurses from Nigeria. But Nigeria has said, oh, this is a problem for Nigeria. We no longer have enough nurses and doctors ourselves. So, if you train in Nigeria, you have to do at least 2 years of service before you can get the licence to be able to, because if they have some, I don't know what's called, some sort of form or something that has to be issued by the Nigerian government before they can actually be accepted by the NHS. Well, they're saying you've got to work 2 years now. Now, when this was first floated, it was going to be 10 years. Well, that would have been even worse, wouldn't it? So, yeah, the only problem I see with that is all that made... Oh, crikey, he's coming in. Can you hear that? It's pumping up. Got to put my arm down low. See what my blood pressure is. That was 133 last time, which was actually not been. That was quite good. So I've been going to 160 to 180, which wasn't very good. Yeah. Oh, oh, it's tight. Ah. Oh, it's cut my blood supply off. Anyway, if I can concentrate, I'll carry on. Why I say it isn't very good, it means all the mature nurses and doctors can leave Nigeria, because obviously they've already paid their dues, you see, in Nigeria, if they haven't already left. So they could still put Nigeria in a bit of a predicament, but they're getting it's better than it was. But for the UK, if we can't get nurses and doctors and what have you from abroad, needless to say, we are going to find it a little bit difficult to be able to function in the NHS, let alone the GPs and let alone the dentists. It's just, we haven't been training up our nurses and our doctors for several years. And a lot of this started when we got rid of the bursary. They brought it back in. I think back in 2019 they brought it back in, but it was a cut down version of the actual original bursary, which is basically a grant for doctors and nurses to be able to get training free of charge within the NHS. Now, I believe any public services, quite frankly, should be funded by the public. But the idea that we train people who are going to be working in the public service, public sphere, and expect them to have student loans and to pay out on that as well as everything else, and then cut their wages at the same time, because whatever way you look at it, if you look at the junior doctors, they have had a pay cut, a real term pay cut. That's what they've had. And that's what they're fighting for. It sounds like a huge amount of money they're asking for, but they're just asking for their money back. And if people don't understand that, well, then we're never going to get on top of this situation, are we? You've got to pay people properly. You don't do 6 years plus worth of training to earn a pittance, do you? Just for public service, as though it's you should be honoured to be working in the NHS. I would say it probably is, but they are like the worst employers. I've heard so many stories about this. They are horrendous. They put so much pressure now on workers within the NHS, doctors, nurses, etc. So much pressure on them, and then they expect them to do double shifts. Well, of course they're going to leave. You can't wonder at it, can you? I wouldn't want to work under those conditions, would you? Tell me what you think. Leave it in the comments down below. What do you think the future of the National Health might be the Health Service, National Health Service in the UK is? More privatisation under Wes Streeton's plans? Or, well, I would hope for, well, a complete national service. Quite frankly myself. What do you reckon? Please leave it in the comments down below. Toodaloo.